Firefighters. That is my topic for today. Firefighters. You guys are pretty awesome. You guys are, I don't know, you're always doing something that I could never have imagined. Honestly. Firefighters, wow. The things that you guys do, running into burning buildings, fighting forest fires. The things you do are amazing and also terrifying. And I don't know. I don't know how people do it. Okay? And I'm so upset about this. You know me, I am always like, why aren't our heroes being celebrated more? Why aren't we giving these men the credit that they deserve? If anything, why are we saying that we don't need them? I cannot comprehend that. I need a firefighter. If there is a burning building, please, firemen, come and rescue me, okay? I would prefer a man because I'm a little sexist. Okay, I'm gonna admit it. I'm a little sexist. If I go to a daycare and you say, "Oh, just leave your 2-month-old baby with a 6'4" Marine," I would be like, "No, thank you. I'll leave my baby with a 60-year-old woman who's had like 5 children." That's what I would do. Just as if you say, "You're in a burning building. Who do you want to rescue you?" I want a 6'4" Marine to rescue me, okay? I want a 6'4" Marine to rescue me. Firefighters. Let me give you an example of how great these men are and what they go through. The 9 firefighters who were taken to a hospital Saturday night as they fought a fire at a 2-story McKinney home have been treated and released. They were called to a home in Joshua Tree Trail around 9 p.m. after a person reported a fire in a bedroom. When firefighters arrived, they saw thick smoke coming from the home and rushed up to help. One must have a good heart to run into a building, a burning building, to save complete strangers. Yes, it is their job, but it's more than that. It's a willingness to accept responsibility for the community. The people whose things had been ravaged by the fire state, "We thank the brave men and women of the McKinney Fire Department for working tirelessly to put out the fire. Some were injured while fighting the flames and were able, and we are hopeful for their full recovery. We are also deeply thankful to our neighbors who, in act of pure kindness, gave our children the shoes off their feet so they wouldn't have to walk barefoot." It really is remarkable to witness hard work of such individuals. They saved everyone, even the pets, by the way. They saved everyone. And to understand where we're at today, to understand how we've come to a place where we're taking our firefighters for granted, we're taking our men for granted, one must see the picture of what we began with. What did America begin with? And how is it today that we are so abundant, we are so lucky that we can say, we don't need these men. They're not valuable. They're horrible. They're not worth it. How can you say that? How can you say that? Either A, one is super privileged and does not have to endure such horrible things, or simply, what? They've never done the job. They don't understand because they've never lived the hardship. They've never gone through something catastrophic, perhaps. Perhaps these men do their jobs so well, they are invisible. To do your job so well that people don't even think about you until indeed their houses are burning down. The first recorded structure fire in the United States occurred in 1608 in the colony of Jamestown. On January 7th, a fire leveled most of the fragile colony, which was just barely a year old. Captain John Smith wrote of the fire in his journal. "Most of our apparel, lodging, and private provisions were destroyed. I begin to think that it is safer for me to dwell in the wild Indian country than in this stockade, where fools accidentally discharge their muskets and others burn down their homes at night. Things haven't changed much." Firefighting equipment in the colonies was rudimentary at best. Leather buckets, hooks and chains, swabs, ladders, and archaic pumps were the tools of the trade in the early days. Fire buckets in colonial towns had the owners' names printed on them. Laws often required residents to purchase them and keep them in repair. The number of buckets a home or business needed was determined by the risk of fire. A baker must have 3 buckets, and a brewer had to have 6 buckets of water for the fire and empty buckets to be refilled. Later, in the invention of the hand pumper, bucket brigades were used to keep the pumper full of water. Hooks and chains were used to make fire breakers by pulling down walls of burning buildings to keep the fire from spreading. Firefighting got an edge with the hand pumper. We have covered many individuals here. We have covered, I know you, for my new people, it's been, you're new. Welcome, by the way. Welcome to my new people. But if you're not familiar with what we cover great figures who've made contributions to society and also the everyday unsung heroes who were simply you're not aware of. But without them, your life would be much more difficult than you imagine. But when we gain new technology, when we gain new inventions, then our society progresses. As we go into the story, we're going to add more and more of how new inventions were made, and then firefighters, the way that they would also be upping the resources and the tools that they had. We started with a hand pumper, for example. But everything builds on each other. All the technology that we have in this country build on each other. And as we get better inventions, our fire equipment improves. And the horrible things that our firefighters have to go through are lessened. Fire prevention in the United States first began in Boston in 1630. The Boston selectmen ordered, "No man shall build his chimney with wood, nor cover his house with thatch." In 1648, Governor Peter Stuyvesant appointed new inspectors with the authority to impose fines for fire code violations. When a fire was spotted, the cry, "Throw out your buckets," would be sounded, and a bucket brigade would be formed. Many homes burnt to the ground. Fire insurance is a pain now. Fire insurance, accidental insurance, all those things are they're a major pain now. But can you imagine your house burning to the ground just frequently in this time? Or your livelihood? We think about saving money for our children. We think about retirement. We think about having enough money so that we can retire comfortably and do the activities that we enjoy. People previously were just trying to not have their houses burned down. How far we have come. How far we have come as a society, as Americans. It's truly phenomenal to me. It really is. In 1763, young Benjamin Franklin, one of the most influential men in Pennsylvania, began urging readers of his Pennsylvania Gazette to establish firefighting companies. Soon, 6 volunteer corps were established in Philadelphia. In 1752, insurance companies in the colonies began issuing plaques or fire marks to be prominently displayed on building fronts as incentive for volunteer firefighters to save their insured buildings. These fire marks are extremely rare these days, as most of them were made of lead, and were melted to make ammunition for the Revolutionary War. With bonuses offered as incentives, rivalries ensued between groups. Marked homes and businesses were brawled over, while residences on the same street with no fire mark often burned to the ground. There are a couple things I would like to highlight before we continue with the story. We are talking now about Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin, very instrumental in American civilization, American politics, Pennsylvania especially, come on. It is fascinating to me that the young Benjamin Franklin began writing about this stuff, began writing about the importance of having firefighting companies and having systems in place. And then people slowly began to put systems in place, having insurance and, marking the buildings in proper way. I I think writers, and I suppose at the time it would be newspapers, ideas really are so much more than we think. They embed sometimes within one's mind and come into being in later time frames, or turn into something, or guide people sometimes without them even being aware. What we hear, what we see, what we put in our minds. At the time, of course, newspapers, that's the thing. That is the thing. You have anything happening, you need to make a point, you need to get people. Newspapers did reach people much better. Today, I do believe that, the podcast world is kind of going to be the next space where we're getting ideas. But ideas such as that, it starts with an idea. It starts with a person who has good intentions, and then we can build on top of it. At the end of the day, my hope, I want to be hopeful. I want to be hopeful. And I think just like Benjamin Franklin is able to put an idea out there, and it does work, and it does slowly begin to make a difference. I think today we can still do that. We can still put good ideas out there, and we can still begin to make a difference. Because the more I read, the more I realize how little I know, and also the more I realize how writers influence in the background and how ideas influence people in the background. So the marked houses, the ones they're marked brawled over, the ones that don't have any fire marks are often burned to the ground. I am certain you are thinking of examples right now of certain situations where you can think of, hey, yeah, the people who have this are more protected, and the people who don't have this are not as well protected. And I must say, for this one, today I am covering firefighters, police officers, my men, you guys. I will cover you at a different point in time, but I simply thought that both departments, both jobs, both occupations deserve their own story, deserve me to cover them separately. So I'm not going to lump you together. Today's only firefighters, and yes, I will cover my policemen later on. And let me know down below whether you want me to go more down this road if you enjoy this, because I like these things, but I'm happy to go along with you as well and see what you're interested in. So yes, today's about my firefighters, and then we will also cover my police officers. In 1852, William F. Channing, a doctor in Boston, used telegraph technology developed in the early 1840s to create the first fire alarm box system. Later that year, Boston had fire alarms all over the city. The first box was struck on April 29 of that same year. Inventions. It is said, necessity is the mother of all invention. Well, the year of 1832 had an outbreak of yellow fever, and as such, we had to bring animals into the fold for firefighting. A shortage of firefighters necessitated the purchase of a horse by a fire company to pull engines. So the yellow fever broke out in 1832, and because of that, we had a shortage of men. Because we had a shortage of men, we began to bring horses and dogs into the fire department to help pull the engines and also to help protect the equipment. The idea caught on fast. Before long, horses became a beloved part of the fire service all over the country. The horses were often trained to the sound of the bell to get out of their stalls and stand at the front of the apparatus, usually with the help of the firehouse dog, the Dalmatian. Dalmatians were originally chosen as fire dogs because they formed a strong bond with the fire horses. They guarded the valuable equine and kept them company in the station. Often at the sound of the bell, the Dalmatian would rouse the horses and then run out to the apron to bark at people trying to cross in front of the firehouse. They would then chase the fire apparatus to the scene. Okay, that's kind of cool though. That is cool. Like, we do have a dog. A dog is a man's best friend, but a dog is also a horse's best friend. They keep the horses company. That's so cute to me. That, like, my heart. Like, I like horses. Who doesn't like horses? And who doesn't like dogs? Who doesn't? If you don't like horses or dogs, if you don't like both of them, that's just breaking my heart. It's just breaking my heart. I could give you one or the other, but not two. Not two. You, I can't. I can't believe. And if my chat box was working, I would ask you. And I have something. I have to yell at Elon about that. You know me. I'm getting fired up. But yes, Dalmatians, horses used to pull the heavy steamers in Boston at the time, and then the horses were suffering from equine influenza. So first the men, we had a yellow fever go through, and our men got hit, and then we had the horses get hit by the equine disease. So Mother Nature, Mother Nature as always, just throwing a wrench in our system over here. It's like we found a solution. Mother Nature's like, nah, how about no? Oh my goodness. But I can't imagine a world. Well, I can't imagine a world without men. It's terrifying. Ladies, I love you. But no, I'm not living in a world without men. I'm not doing it. Nope. Mm-mm. I politely, as a heterosexual female, no, I'm not living in a world without men. I'm gonna admit it. I need men. Okay, I'm gonna say it. I do need men, and please and thank you for all the work that you do. Before I hopped on here, I ended up getting into a little bit more about what firefighters have to go through. The smell of the burnt bodies, the fire, of course, there's the smoke, and, look at this, the attire. Look at what they have to wear. The material, putting on the suit alone would, like, kill me. Putting on the suit, I would just be like, no thank you. It's so hot. They're putting on the suit for protection, but they're going in there and it's hot. It's smoky. They can barely see anything. The burnt flesh sometimes, and then the burning building falling down on them. I don't see any women signing up for that job, and I wouldn't sign up for that job. That's a job for a man. That's a job for men. Because they are capable and they are stronger, and quite frankly, they do it better. They do it better. They really do. So, my firefighters, my people doing all the hard work in California, putting out those fires, going in the forest. Wow, that's a difficult job. It's a difficult job. We have the burning building, that's one of them, but also you forget about the forest fires too. The terrain and how they have to walk, and the miles and miles they walk. And then also there's a science to everything that they do. Forest fires entirely different than house fire. Totally different way of trying to contain or solve the problem. So the horses also got sick. And after the horses got sick, then, the valuable, all the money that they had put into this, all that stuff, because the horses got sick, they had to move on to the next thing, which, to solve the problem. But before they solved the problem, the horses being sick resulted in the Great Fire of Boston in 1872. You probably have heard about that because Boston is proud of its fires. Boston Tea Party, Boston fires. Boston, why are you burning things down? Please, stop. Stop burning things down, okay? Keep it together, Boston. The firefighters had to struggle to pull the heavy steamers themselves through the narrow, winding streets of Boston to that fire. It was reported that the fire assumed fearful proportions within 50 miles, 15 minutes of being detected. 13 people were killed, 9 of them firefighters. Remember earlier how I had said that we started with a story of 9 firefighters going into a burning house to save the family. The entire family was saved, even the pets, and none of the firefighters sustained any major injuries. Imagine that story, no injuries, everyone saved, and we're talking within 15 minutes. The fire had assumed fearful proportions, and 13 people were killed, 9 of them firefighters. Not long after, steam-powered and then gasoline-powered firefighting apparatus were put into service. In 1923, on Monday morning in Chicago on February 6, fire alarm box 864 at State and Chicago Avenue was pulled at 12:40 p.m. with the horses scrubbed and groomed. The old steamer rolled out the swinging doors at Fire Engine 11 for the last time. Buck, Beauty, Dan, and Teddy galloped out the fire station at 10E Hubbard Street, with their coach and the firefighters riding on the engine. They were led by the demolition escort to a false alarm. It was their last response. The alarm was pulled at a box at Chicago Avenue and State Streets as part of a planned event to mark the retirement of the horse-drawn engines in firefighting. Equipment in the city of Chicago. It was the first department in the United States with more than 500,000 residents to become completely motorized. Gasoline engines were at first used either as pumping engines or as tractors to pull apparatus. In 1910, the two functions were combined, one engine both propelling the truck and driving the pump. Modern equipment is usually diesel-powered. Multiple variations of the basic fire engine enable firefighters to respond to many types of emergency situations. In the end, I probably hit you with a lot of technology. It's probably what you picked up from here is we have fire engines, we have the pump, we have steam, we have the fire alarm. You see how much technology is coming into being? And I promise you, all those pieces of technology were created. Anybody want to take a guess? Anyone want to guess here that, they were created by men? Yeah. All of them created by men. A doctor, in fact, created the fire alarm. A doctor. It is fascinating to me how we talk about the top 20% of people producing 80%. Or in business, the rule is, or in general, any rule, you look at it, the top 20% do all the work. Even if you go look at your clients or look at your business portfolio, I've been in business a little bit in terms of growing up restaurant industry and then getting a degree and going in the accounting world. Same thing. There are few people that they spend all the time trying to make happy because they are the producers. And this made me think about the 80-20 rule because it is a doctor who invents the fire alarm. A doctor, a person who is already working and contributing to society. It is such people who see a need and go on and just make it a reality. Honestly. Because one thinks, well, should that not have been, you would imagine maybe an engineer, maybe an up-and-coming new kid would have solved such a problem. That, what? Really? Fire alarm? Made by a man who's a doctor? That doesn't seem like that would be the normal flow of things. But I give you another one. The telephone, when we first started that one, the automatic switch was also invented by a person who's not in that world at all. The person was a funeral director in the funeral business, and the reason why they began, the automatic switch, why they did it, is because they thought that at the time, Western Union, Bell, those two telegraph companies, at the time he thought that Bell Telegraph Company was sending his business to the competitor, or the wife of his competitor worked at Bell Telegraph Company, and then took all the messages, because we remember back then we had people, we had our what are callers are. I forgot what their name is. And this is a perfect reason why I need you right now, because I need you to drop it down below and tell me what it is. But you had those people who took calls and they routed them. And yeah, you could see in a situation like that potentially he could lose business, serious business. And to solve the problem, he set about to create the automatic switch. And this makes me think about knowledge. Knowledge builds on itself. Knowledge is power. Knowledge will allow you to do far more than you could ever imagine. I have made so many mistakes as a dumb 20-something-year-old, but I must say, although I've made such mistakes, because I'm a person who enjoys learning, and because I'm a person who likes to know things just because it's fascinating to know about the world, I have accidentally stumbled about the way to go about life that is the most rewarding and most fulfilling, because I read books. So even with all my mess ups, even with all my screw ups and everything I've done, I still am at the end of the day winning. And I only attribute it to the fact that I read books. That's the only reason why. I think knowledge is just, it's the one thing no one can ever take away from you. And if we have a funeral director who was losing business, he would become obsolete. He would no longer be able to provide and do his livelihood. But he's studious. He is knowledgeable. He is willing to go out and try something new and try something different. And because of that, he ended up creating a company that, actually, Theodore Roosevelt, when he first took office in 1901, would end up using the automatic telephone switch. So think about that. That's impacting the government. A funeral director is impacting how the government utilizes technology. Because Roosevelt, at the time when he took office, he believed that the switch was it provided more privacy, which is quite right. And you can think about international relations. You can think about the president and security of information and things going in and out and how the government needs to protect. That's a major, major thing that could impact and would impact government. That is impressive. And one would have never imagined that a funeral director would be impacting the government. Is this the kind of conversation that gets me going? I get the chills. I'm like, wow. The government? That level? It's forever. Technology, knowledge is forever building on itself. It really is forever building on itself. And it's difficult. I'm not going to lie. Gaining knowledge is difficult. But one who has it, one who works for it, is truly fortunate. Is truly fortunate. I count myself lucky just being able to know such information, because it's so valuable. So, firefighters respond to many types of situations. We had talked about the fire, and we began with the burning building. But let's talk about
72 hours completely self-supported.
I'm gonna do this one. I know. I'm sorry, my OCD people. But this one, we're gonna do a video right now of how a forest fire is fought and see a little bit of logistics and behind the scenes of what and how these guys work. Gonna take it away with the fire video.
22 hours completely self-supported. Food, water, shelter, safety equipment, and firefighting tools. They follow the ridgeline and make their way to the fire. Now, this is a small team and they need to decide how to prioritize what they do. With the fire already having grown to 15 acres, the team knows they're unlikely to stop it on their own. Backups are already on the way, so their priority is to slow it down as much as possible. There are 4 major factors that affect how fast a fire moves: how much fuel there is, how wet the fuel is, the wind direction, and the slope. The 2 factors that the team can immediately gauge that affect where the fire will move fastest are the wind direction and slope. In this case, the wind is coming from the north, and they know that to the southwest is an upward slope. Fire moves faster uphill than it does downhill since the fire burns upwards, so these smoke jumpers know that this is likely the fire's fastest moving front. While trees do burn, the primary source of fuel that a wildfire uses to move is the dry brush and dead wood on the forest floor, so the biggest technique used to stop forest fires is to create what's called a fire line. These are essentially a gap where they remove all fuel, plants both dead and alive, so that there's nothing for the fire to continue burning. The smoke jumpers use a mix of chainsaws and other hand tools to do this work, but sometimes fire lines are pre-built. In this case, there's a road at the top of the uphill section, which will help slow or stop the fire so they can direct their efforts elsewhere. They use the road as their anchor point, a cleared section that the fire likely won't cross, where they start building their fire lines so the fire can't outflank them. Throughout this construction process, the smoke jumpers need to be sure that they can escape in case the wind shift or the fire picks up speed. Wildfires can move exceptionally fast, up to 7 miles per hour in forests, which is faster than humans are often able to make their way through dense trees. In grasslands, fires can move up to 14 miles per hour, so firefighters have to be extra cautious. For this reason, firefighters rarely put themselves directly in front of the fire's moving front. They'll either be far ahead or to the side. In the case of this fire, as they're building this first fire line, they're close to a road which acts as an easy exit point, but just in case, all smoke jumpers carry fire shelters. These compact, lightweight shelters won't survive direct flames for too long, but they do greatly increase a firefighter's chance of survival in case they can't escape the path of a fire. After a little over an hour of work, the smoke
Okay, guys, quick stop. That part got me, okay? The little plastic bag that they have to just cover themselves. No. Like, I don't trust. I wouldn't trust it. I would just run. I would be the person who run. I know that's the wrong thing to do, but those things look too thin. They look too thin for me.
72 hours completely self-supported. Food.
Okay, let's see. Sorry, guys. These things play on their own. There we go. But no, they look way too thin.
Fighter's chance of survival in case they can't escape the path of a fire.
Anything.
After a little over an hour of work, the smoke jumpers complete a continuous fire line from the road to a stream. Streams, while less secure than roads, also help stop or slow down a fire by acting as a fire line. To the southeast of the fire, there's also a small road that connects to another stream, meaning there are at least rudimentary fire lines on 3 sides of the fire. It's at this time when backups arrive by road. The added manpower allows for much faster action. The immediate focus goes to strengthening the southeastern fire line, currently just a stream. At closest, the fire's less than 100 feet from the stream, and the stream is itself in a valley, so it's too risky to work directly behind the stream. There's just no good escape route, so the new arrivals get to work on a redundant fire line 100 feet behind the stream. By 10 a.m., the fire has further grown, and the team knows that the worst is still to come. Fire spreads most rapidly between 10 a.m. and sunset due to the daytime heat and wind. By 11 a.m., the fire has reached the road and part of the fire line, which means that some of those who are building the fire line are reallocated to make sure that the fire line holds, extinguishing any flames that may jump the road. By noon, the fire lines are holding, and while the fire size is growing, it's at a manageable pace, so there's reasonable hope that it can be suppressed before expanding to an uncontrollable size. At 1 p.m., though, conditions change. The wind starts blowing harder towards the southwest, and as trees burn on the north side of the road, the wind pushes embers over the road, which ignite underbrush on the other side, and now the entire focus of the firefighting efforts change. You see, the point of fighting wildfires is not actually to put them out, it's to control them. While the number of wildfires has increased due to humans, they're actually a very natural phenomenon. What's making wildfires worse is humans stopping them. Many forests survive wildfire through trees having heat-resistant bark and other evolutionary adaptations. These fire-resistant forests relied on having wildfires at a consistent interval every few decades to clear out the forest floor of dead plants and to kill invasive species. Nowadays, though, as humans suppress fires, a forest might only see a wildfire every 50 years instead of 25, for example, meaning that there's twice as much fuel, and so the fire burns faster, larger, and more intensely. It was only
Awesome. That was me putting things back to an ending with all of that. Um, isn't that fascinating? The way that a forest fire is fought is different than I would have imagined. I would not have thought about the wind, the difference between how quickly the fire moves in the forest versus the grass. And also, what most fascinated me is the natural occurrence of fires and how humans have actually worsened the problem. At least in one state that shall not be mentioned. It's X, okay? It's X. You know what state I'm thinking of. The crazy state. The crazy state. Actually, it's the only state that I ever hear of about crazy fires. That the humans, who are well intentioned, although they're trying to do the right thing, they have good intentions. The results are just exacerbating the problem. They're not making it better, they're making it worse. And it is recently that we've discovered this. So it's also like, as you gain new technology and as you learn, you do better. You learn, you do better. The other thing that struck me in that video as well were the fact that there were so few people doing that job. Do you have the aptitude for that job? I do not. I like reading my books. I'm happy to put a sentence together eloquently and, learn new vocabulary words like Bildungsroman. I love that word, Bildungsroman. And I'm awkward. I'll just put it in weird times when you're not expecting it. Bildungsroman. Who thinks of that? Yeah, the weird words like that fascinates me. But look how few people were doing that job. I don't know how much we are in need of firefighters. I know that we are in need of policemen more so than ever. But firefighters, I imagine we could use some more of them. Yeah. But this one is so cute. A man and a dog. A man in uniform and a dog. Ladies, you're welcome. Gentlemen, okay, I needed to put one thing in there for the ladies, okay? I'm not even doing the calendar of men, okay? We're just focusing on the information. I'm not even objectifying you guys. I should get points. I should get points. But that picture's cute. A man in a uniform and a dog. Come on. Nobody's standing a chance. Gentlemen, okay? You want to win? You want to win? Picture, uniform, and a lab. Uniform and a golden, okay? That's what your new profile picture should be. Uniform and a golden retriever. The only thing that would beat you would be a baby and a golden retriever. I really, that's it. I think that's the only thing that could beat you. So, I don't know. Tell the ladies, be like, ladies, all our profile pictures are now going to be us in uniform. Even if you don't have a uniform, borrow one, okay? All my men, just be like, uniform and a dog. Every time, every girl, you win all their hearts. Even the ones that you probably wouldn't want. I know, but we have to be kind. Weird. The weather is so weird today, you guys. But, oh, look at these horses. They're so cool. Wow. That's what it used to be back then. Wow. I can't imagine. Well, we can't imagine what it would be like in that stable. Like cleaning up after that. But Overall, that wouldn't be a bad job to have as long as I get to pet the horses and, well, you get to rub them down and I want to go ride horses now. Did I put anyone else in the mood for riding horses? This is an example of what they're talking about the horses pulling the engine. Isn't that cool? Wow. Those pictures very much resemble something that is out of like Pittsburgh. It's the area I grew up, and every time I see those houses, I'm just like, oh, just feels like, looks like just like home to me. No difference over here, just like home. I don't see any difference. But how far we've come, and all the people who do this hard job appreciating their hard job. And I am curious though, why has technology not caught up to help men with these types of jobs more? Perhaps it is because the energy that is required for technology to be on such a mass scale is just not available. To blow your mind again, one of the things with technology, the thing with us not having robots to do everything right now as was predicted, is because getting technology going, getting the power to power the robots, what they run on, is a problem we have not yet solved. Currently, we are using nuclear fission. Mm-hmm. It's the process of breaking apart molecules, specifically nuclei, nucleus, protons, neutrons, that kind of stuff. It's a process of breaking the nuclei, I believe, out of an electron. Again, broad overview, okay? It's a process of breaking the nuclei out so that we can create energy. They bounce off of each other, create more energy, and that's how we're able to harness energy to power everything that we have today. United States has the most amount of nuclear power plants, and even with everything that we do have, it's difficult for us to provide energy for everything. Live streaming right now, the thing I'm doing right now, takes a lot of energy to do, powering up all these computers. So imagine if we did have a robot fire truck and they were able to do all those things. So the question is, who's going to be the next person that solves our nuclear energy problem or the ability to get energy? I understand we're exploring different avenues, but that will be the next problem to solve, and then we will be able to further make American lives better. But if you're wondering why the robots are not here yet, that is the conclusion I have come to after reading some books and after reading about technology. The conclusion is we simply do not have enough energy to power said robots, and that's why our men are still doing what they have to do in those weird, horrible jobs. The oil rigs. Wow. I'm just upset. I'm just upset. I don't know how the trend got started that we don't need any men. I don't know who started it, but they must be living under a rock. Or they must not have observed anything. Not to knock them down, and I hate beating up on people, but I get so upset because to me it is so obvious that men are needed. Strong men, good, kind men are needed for a healthy, strong society. And maybe it's our schools. I'm not sure. But to look around you, to truly observe, and to not constantly be about yourself, a single observation will reveal that American men are some of the best guys on the planet. They are. My experience is American men are some of the best guys on the planet. And you might say, what experience do you have? You probably were born in America. You don't know any difference. Only thing I can say is I've had my experience in other places that were not very good. And the first people who were instrumental, pivotal were my American parents, being adopted from a different country, my American parents. But for me, I admire my parents because yes, they adopted kids from a different country, but I admire my dad even more so because I am unaware of how few men are willing to adopt children from a different country and actually provide. That is at least my experience. I don't know what a better experience someone could have had to see that American men are some of the best men on the planet is to be a kid from a third world country and by the grace of God get adopted to a family where I'm fortunate, but also have an American parent, have an American dad who accepted that. I don't think a lot of men are willing to do that. There's a lot of legacy of my blood, and no hate or anything like that, but it's just it takes an extraordinary man to do that, and to me, that is my dad, and because of that, I have very high regard for American men, and they make a lot of sacrifices. They do a lot of good, and I'm not gonna take it. I'm not gonna take it as long as I have a voice and I have an ability to put something good out there. I will put out the good that at least I have seen from such men. Oh, look at the next puppy! I'm distracting you with a puppy because I get vulnerable and I tell you all my feelings. You guys, you know all my secrets, okay? So I pivot to a dog. So I give you so I transfer those feelings to the cute puppy. Ah, hey, anybody else want a dog right now? I kind of want one. It's just a dog by the water, looking pretty. It's so cute. Wow. Look at this picture over here. Huh? Soot. But anybody else, does that make you think of like a coffee maker almost? Like it's a huge coffee maker? Or is it like I'm a person who likes coffee and I will put in like oh my gosh. I really wish I would be getting your feed right now. Tomorrow I'm gonna work on this again. I'm gonna work on it. I really want to see you guys in the chat and think you think this is a coffee maker? Could we make it like a huge vat? Just put coffee in it and make and like take it around to the streets and just give coffee. I think if we just gave coffee out for free, even if it's black coffee, people would be like, "Oh, thank you, thank you." So they would be so appreciative. This one, obviously, you're seeing back in the day of a close up of what this would have looked like of the fire engine and boogie and everything else. It even has what is it? The bell up in front of here, and then we have, obviously, the stuff back here, the engine stuff. I believe I'm not an expert. I'm an enthusiast who enjoys learning. Ah, but that is so cool. This is giving me vibes of the Ford Museum, but I probably am wrong. Another fun fact for you. Ford made fire trucks. Ford, the company, when it first began, part of the stuff when we're reaching around World War One, we have to manufacture, and at the time, of course, the assembly line. Ford is known not for making the assembly line, not for making it or inventing it, but for his mass production and his ability to reduce the tasks to such mechanization, I suppose, or such minute way. He's able to slice up everything so differently. Like when I tell you, like to make a car Ford, it was like each person was trained to how to do something, but it was like they broke down making a car from like a single person worked from it from start to finish to like each man when they were broken up on the factory and when they were in their own little jobs. I believe around he broke it into like 40 different parts, or he broke it down to like the jobs 40 different jobs, such as the person who tightens the bolt does not put it on the axle. Like that level. The man who took the tires up from above to put them on before it went out was not the same man who drove the car off the lot. So Ford was the one who was known for first, like, and because of that, as a result, we having mass production and the assembly line helped us in World War One. We began to make ambulances, ambulances, fire trucks, hearse, that kind of stuff. Yeah, Ford. It's just how it all came together, and the way that it just built on top of one another. That is what I'm most fascinated about, is because the more I learn, the more I realize how much is built on top of one another. That we first began with a car company, but eventually we're ending with fire trucks. Yeah, this is like, look at this. Isn't that cool? Wow. We ended up with fire trucks and ambulance, all that stuff. And this one looks like it's in very good condition, like it's well kept in. It's like in a museum almost, as if they took it out just so they could take a picture. That's gorgeous. I understand it. I understand why men are into trucks. And in machines. Once one understands how much effort and work goes into these machines, they really are beautiful. They really are. And these guys, wow. That is amazing. That is amazing. And to me, we live in a society, America. In a way, we work so well. And we are so fortunate that we don't even realize how much we have. That we would be so brazen to say such a thing as we don't need men. And to me, the thing that breaks my heart the most, or the reason why I set out to do this, is because one day, I'm, God willing, I would like to be a mom one day. And if I have a son, it would be disparaging for him to come into such a world. That would be heartbreaking. My message is, at the end of the day, all women have brothers, mothers, fathers. And I'm not saying, the world doesn't have its bad, but the world certainly has its good. And I think that the people who are doing the good things should get credit and should get acknowledged. And we should have a community where we are giving the good guys credit for being the good guys. We need a news channel that proclaims what great things men do. And I am here for you, okay? I'm your newscaster. This is Shalinda coming live from my nomadic lifestyle. And I'm here to highlight the positive things that men do. I would love to continue chatting with you, and I would love to see what we're doing in the chat box. Tomorrow, I aim to get that together, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts and seeing what you think. Let me show you what I have. Okay, this is kind of what I was hoping to have with my discussion, so then all of your chats would come up here in the blue box, and we could do epic discussions, and we could go on this idea, and I could hear what you're thinking, or something that I may have not thought of. I'm curious to know. That is the point. I'm curious to know what you are thinking. So, tomorrow, that is the goal. I want to have something like this where we're able to discuss and have a bit of fun and see the ideas that came in your mind. So, I have to go. I have things. I have to get prepared. So I will say, au revoir, à demain. I will talk to you next time.